over.
Well, that's it.
Sure, I'm gonna try to go down. So I decided I'm gonna.
Okay. She's gonna be. Yeah, because there's softball too.
No, yeah.
Really, it was over, I guess.
Yes.
So now. Yeah. Yeah. Super competitive. No, but I think they have options. We track coach is really good.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the February 14th council meeting to order. Would you please stand for the pledge of allegiance? Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First up on the agenda, Sherry, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Fish.
Here.
Absent. Mr. Yaki.
Here.
Mr. Richmond.
Here.
Mr. Vincent.
Here. Thank you. Next on the agenda is reading and disposal of the journal. Disposal of the journal. Does anyone have any corrections or comments to the minutes from last meeting? I would like to start with the regular.
I was gonna say the regular one,
The
okay.
regular meeting, yes.
Minor thing, my name is missing from the roll call.
Alright, we're at
The top line there, the top, yeah,
Okay.
very, I mean, my name is everywhere else. So.
Yeah.
I was there.
You were there.
I was there.
Anybody else? Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second. I have a motion by our council president, second by Councilman Fish. Please call the roll.
Okay, Mr. Remmerman,
Yes.
Mr. Fish.
Yes.
Mr. Yaki,
Yes.
Mr. Richmond,
Yes.
Mr. Vincent.
Yes.
Okay, next, we also had a special council meeting that evening. If anyone's had a chance to look at those minutes, I know they were rather brief. Does anyone have any updates or changes or anything for those minutes? I do have a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion by our council president, second by Councilman Vincent. Yes, Mr. Vincent, please call the roll.
Mr. Remmerman,
Yes.
Mr. Fish.
Yes.
Mr. Yaki,
Yes.
Mr. Richmond,
Yes.
Mr. Vincent.
Yes.
Okay, we good with the minutes?
Yeah, we're good.
Super, okay. Next up on the agenda is action upon any matter which any resident may wish to present to council. So I'm wondering if there's any resident here who wishes to present to council any comments. I know we have our commission here, we'll be presenting a little later. Okay, seeing none, we also have a distinguished guest here this evening from the illuminating company, Dean Hain. He is he's regional external affairs person that covers our area. And I invited him here tonight to give us an update on the activities of the illuminating company, and then also to give the council an opportunity, if they have any questions for Mr. Hain, could certainly ask them this evening. Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it. He's been a very responsive and proactive person for our village when it comes to power outages and communication. So thank you for that, Mr. Hain, and I'll give you the floor.
Well, thank you. Again, my name is Dean Hain from First Energy and the Illuminating Company. I'm a liaison with many communities throughout northeastern Cuyahoga County and Geauga counties. Most of my role, when storms happen, I'm real busy communicating with different communities, trying to keep everybody up to speed on what's going on and helping out where assistance is needed, where the storms are at any time. Today, I'd just like to cover a couple things that we do every day. It's usually a big topic, just kind of review quickly. When there is a storm, the outage protocol, it's very important that residents know to call us. Don't assume that we know that the power's out. Don't assume that your neighbor called. A lot of times we find out we'll get everybody back online. We think everybody's back online, and all of a sudden there's one or two people that didn't call and report it, and then it's gonna take longer to get them back on. So in addition, when you call and report it, residents call and report the damage, it helps us better isolate where the issue is. It doesn't tell us exactly, but it will help us better isolate where we think it is, where the problem could be. System does some analytics based on the amount of people who call. It's got this is a valuable suspect. It's a tree of them, just a tree. At the end of the day, it helps get power back on for everybody quicker. It's everybody's best. So please call us. Best way to report an outage is calling the company at 188 lights. That's 2 S's. So I think it's very convenient. If residents don't have an account with us now, I encourage you to go online and enroll with an account. And this little brochure I passed out talks about it as well, reporting an outage. You have a cell phone, a mobile smartphone. If you register your account and your phone number, then when there is an outage, all you have to do is go and type in OUT, send, and you know there's an outage at your house. And then when there's updates available for your home, for your residents, we'll automatically send updates out to your smartphone as well. It's a little bit to set up, I shouldn't say a little bit, a couple of minutes, probably to set it up, but when there's an emergency down the road, it's very convenient to have it taken care of. So very important, and then source information, text information, if we have your information, we have you registered. Otherwise, I would encourage customers to go online with a cell phone. Sometimes the power's out, it's hard to go online with a computer unless you have some backup power. Something a lot of people ask about battery backup. It's a good thing to have on your computers if you don't have them today. I myself have, I think, lasts for about 4 hours. The average goes beyond that. And not a lot, but hopefully it doesn't go beyond. Sometimes when there are massive storms, it can take a while. Sure, many of you are aware. But sometimes we have outages for days. When there is a big storm, everybody starts calling in at once. So hectic. It's very hectic. As far as the first question is, how long am I going to be out? When there gets to be tens of thousands of outages, it's for the most part, it's impossible for us to know. Sometimes for a couple of days before we can assess everything and determine who's going to be out. So what do we do when that happens? We're in what we call storm mode. A lot of people say, what's that? That's basically everybody in the company, for the most part, especially out in the field, has a role. They might read meters during the day, they might work on lines, might be an engineer. All that goes by the wayside. You focus on storm and get people restored. Determine what the issue is, get lines back up, support it in some way, answering phone calls. So the first thing we do is we look at any known hazards. There's wires down. We get people out to either clear those or get someone to tape off the area, possibly get the help of police department or fire department to guard an area so no one gets hurt. Please never go near a down power line. As innocent it may seem, you don't know if it's energized or not. Even getting close to them, you can get electrocuted from power going through the ground. So stay away, report it, either call the utility company immediately or 911 to see it down. Give priority to hospitals, police department, fire department, or other critical facilities. Transmission lines and substations, and this is say because those feed the power down through the lines into the communities. Take care of those first. And then we make repairs, to restore the largest number of customers first. It's proven to be the most efficient way to get things taken care of. Now that doesn't mean say there's a Sea of Cleveland, there's a bunch of people out there, so they're going to get taken care of first. We have people everywhere. So within a certain area, say within Moreland Hills or Solon and Mansfield, mutual service areas, we're going to take, if there's a circuit, let's say 4,000 people out, and we can get that back up quickly, we're going to do that. And maybe you or I, if at our homes, we have an overhead drop and we're the only one out in that neighborhood, we're unfortunately probably going to be last. So when big storms come, prepare yourself, flashlight, water, batteries, all that good stuff. see here. Something you may also see in a storm, we call cut and run. A truck may pull up, cut a wire, and then leave. Well, wait a second, where are you going? We're not done yet. My power's not back. They'll do that. They'll maybe cut a wire, clear it, pull a fuse, remove a branch, something to help get others back on quickly, and then minimize the amount of people that are out. And then we'll send crews later to make the final repairs, which hopefully isn't too long. But and also when we go out there, allows us to assess the damage, call back in, and determine how many crews and what equipment that needs to be brought. I mentioned a few minutes ago, when you do call, even on a normal day, if you look at it online right away, I think the system automatically says it's at least 2 or 3 hours anticipated for an outage. And even at that point, we generally don't know, have a lot of information of what's happened until we get somebody out. So if you go online to look, please check back frequently, or if you have the text messages should be coming to you to let you know when things are back. Any questions on outages, reported outages? Let's see, I'll just talk about energy savings real briefly. The company, if you go on the website, firstenergycorp.com, there are many areas where it just says save energy. There's items on there say 100 ways to save. There's a home energy analyzer tool, which if you sign up, you can see your energy and it'll ask you questions on how you use your energy, and that makes some recommendations on how to save money. Shopping. If you don't have an alternative supplier, we recommend that you do shop and look for one. The company itself is, we were just talking, is basically a wires business today. We don't generate electricity and sell it. We do have it available for the ones who don't go out and shop. On your bill, there's a thing called PTC price to compare. If you can get an amount less than that price to compare, we encourage you to do so. And right now, a couple of years ago, the illuminating company was one of the less expensive options to go with. And then last June, our new rates kicked in. We had to go out and buy power. We had to pay a lot of money for it. The market it was quite expensive. So right now it is generally higher than a lot of other options. So even if you have something today, we've had them for a while, it's always good to go back and look and see what's out there and try to save yourself some money. Encourage that. Appliance rebates on the website. There's also a lot of information on rebates for Energy Star certified appliances. I wasn't going to wear that myself. Have to go out there and do some searching to. You have to put in the model on the appliance to see if there's rebates for it. But they're anywhere from $100 to $200 depending on the appliance. So I encourage people to go out there and do that. Shop for energy. I think that's about all I have today. Any questions or anything I can get back to you on? I want to take up, I went over my 2 minutes. I apologize.
Very good. I had a couple questions. One is, since you're talking about rebates, are there rebates for a new furnace that's more efficient, more energy efficient?
I'll follow up on that for sure, but I don't believe we have anything.
Not correct. Okay, I was just curious. And then also, I get emails, and I don't know if everyone gets them. Maybe I'm the one, and maybe the police chief gets them from First Energy when you are going to do flyovers to look at the power lines. And I'm just curious if you could tell us kind of how you do it, like how does that work, and how do you think about that preventive maintenance to keep trees out of the power lines where you can, and how does that work? Because I don't see those, and you must do them every quarter or something.
So the tree trimming in general on the distribution lines, the local lines, those run a 4-year trim cycle.
Okay.
We just should have been most of all, if not all, Moreland Hills last year,
Okay.
2023. And we'll be back again in approximately 4 years. Occasionally, there's, depending on the weather, there's, you never know how Mother Nature is gonna act, what she's gonna do. Sometimes there's growth spurts and things can grow a little faster, and every year is a little bit different. So I say 4 years, sometimes it might be the beginning of the fourth year, or it might be the end of the fourth year. Constantly look at what's going on. So the larger lines, usually the transmission lines that bring the power to the substation and gets distributed to the communities. We fly over those. Usually there's different types of patrols. There's like just a quick visual patrol that's usually done every quarter. There's thermal patrols, certain different types of equipment that is used. That's generally once a year. I think there's actually 3 different types. There's another one, corona, infrared, and then just a visual. As well as if we've had big storms, major damage, we will also go out after a storm and look at everything as well, make sure we've got everything. There's nothing, some of the transmission lines run through areas where people don't walk too often. So we'll either use a helicopter and sometimes a drone to take a look at things.
Thank you.
A couple of questions. Thanks. First of all, comment. I've been on council 20 years now, and I've definitely seen a nice improvement on responsiveness and First Energy procedures and personnel being easier to work with over the years from council standpoint. So I appreciate that. Thank you. A couple questions that I get. One, can I presume that this is a possibility if we get, say, comments from a number of folks in one particular area that might say something along the lines of, we get the big storms and we get the heavily treated areas, but we're not in the heavily treated area, and whether there's a big storm or not, our power seems to be always failing. Is that something that the mayor and or the council folks can call you up, Dean, or somebody else to say, hey, can we look historically and
Yes,
and verify and try and see if there's anything else?
definitely. One, our engineering group looks at and monitors and ranks every circuit throughout the year and looks for trends. Sometimes we might not see them as quick as residents would like us to. So if there's something you'd like to bring to our attention, if there's a certain area, yeah, please. Most communities, I believe you guys as well, like to work through the service department, just so everybody's aware of what's being communicated. Leave that up to the mayor to decide. But in general, yes, someone contacts me, I'll go with engineering, we'll take a look at the outages in that area and see what the costs are. It could be, just because we trim doesn't mean trees. A lot of times trees will fall from off the right. So generally the right of ways are 10 or 15 feet wide. We trim up around the wires, a distance, we call it 4 years growth. And depending on the specimen of the tree, it could be back 8 feet, maybe a little less, a little bit more. But stuff off the right of way in someone's yard, we can't touch that. And stuff comes down. So I encourage residents as well in your yard, please maintain your trees. If you see that something might come down the line, it's good to have it taken care of before it causes damage. Can I answer your question?
Thank you. Yeah, no, absolutely. I had one other question. Sometimes it's easier to understand the more you know, but I also understand that certain things are public information, certain things aren't. Is it public, or if it's not public, is there a policy or an issue with sharing grid maps or showing where the lines and where the equipment stems from, which substation, and how it gets, distributed in our area?
Many communities ask for that, and I've been told repeatedly, no, no, and no.
Okay.
So yeah, we don't share that. And
Okay.
sometimes for security reasons. It could be out there somewhere, but our people said we're not.
I got you. Okay.
If it's something you'd like to look at, service department or a specific area for some reason, there's an issue, and we're putting them together, but we're not just gonna. Because we give you the maps and, give them to a community, it's public information. And stuff changes on that every day, and you would never get the updates, and there's a lot of reasons not to do
Gotcha. Thank you.
it. Anyone else?
One quick question, I know frequently we're hearing explosions and it's a trip. Are those monitored or reviewed, or is it kind of like, once it fails, then we know to go fix it? I'm just wondering if there's kind of.
Usually if it's a bang, it's probably gonna be the fuse.
Okay.
In the transformer. If the transformer itself truly does blow up, yeah, it's done, it's time to replace it. Even a fuse, if it repeatedly goes, gets blown, then there's something wrong with the transformer, usually won't replace it.
But there's no way until really they fail, that
No.
you're not good.
Preventative maintenance.
Nope. They're pretty much buy them, set them out there, and they're done, they're done. Maybe years down the road, but, that's it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
No, sorry. Done? Yeah, I have a question about, sort of cycle of life, similar to Bill's question, but more like, are you guys having problems with equipment availability? Are you seeing issues, with replacing if you need it, or is that not really an issue for you guys?
For a while, I'd say a couple of years ago, shortly after the COVID, and then up till probably a year ago, especially something that's made with plastic or fiberglass. We're having hard time getting materials throughout the whole country. Transformers had an issue for right now. In general, I'm not aware of any
Okay.
issues, and things are getting back to normal.
Transformers is what I was
Some
reminded when you said the word.
regular sized transformers that we use every day.
Yeah.
Seem to be readily
Okay,
available. If it's something special, large one, you need a substation, special order, that's gonna take some time.
got it.
Well, we've got spares.
Yeah.
Zane, I thank you for coming and speaking with us, and it was a good opportunity to have you meet the council here and
Anytime,
some of our residents.
meeting everyone,
And you're welcome to stay, but please, you are not
on
allowed
that.
to stay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, I am going to move on to reports. From the mayor and other municipal officials. And I'll start with my own report. I have just a couple things this evening. The first is following up from our committee, the whole meeting we had last week. I did reach out to all three of our commissions, including the commissions. A number of members are here today about the eclipse event. I like that. And I haven't heard from Parks yet. I got two enthusiastic responses from the other two commissions. So we're gonna move forward and have an event. And my thinking right now is we'll announce it here in the next newsletter in March. And I'll ask I'll work with the commission chairs to help think about what they might do. I've got some ideas of what the village could provide, and then, they can decide what they might want to do. I have some thoughts about maybe a little education, a little crafts, a little music, something like that, but we'll figure that out. So I'm excited. We'll do that. I think we're talking, what do we say? 2 to 4:30, something like that. 2 to 4. So it's only going to be 2.5 hours. We'll see what kind of, depending on what type of advertising we do and promotion we do, we'll see how many people we get, and the weather, of course. But I wanted to share that update, so I did follow up on that. And then also, we're going to participate in Harvest for Hunger again this year. You may recall we partnered with Chagrin Falls, Bentleyville, Hunting Valley, and South Russell, and that'll be starting very soon. So we'll be announcing that as well. It will go through the month of March, and of course, they like to see donations of canned and dry goods, but always most useful is cash, of course, because then they can get exactly what they need. But I just encourage everybody to participate. I think we will have our boxes as we customarily do at the entrance to the village hall. So people can bring them in when they're here. So just wanted to share that with you as well. Oh, one last thing. I'm not ready for this, and if I'm ready in a month, I'll let you know. But I know we had a discussion about the survey again, and so each month I try to look at some of the comments and I try to share some knowledge, some data or some information in the newsletter, which I think a lot of you have seen. One of the things I'm going to work on now, we had a few comments on emergency response in the village. Not a lot of them, but enough to say, hey, if I live in the western part of Moreland Hills, I'm concerned about the response time all the way from Chagrin Falls, those types of things. So I've been talking with the Chagrin Fire and EMS and just kind of getting some information from them about response times. And then also about process, because I think you may know our former mayor did work with Chief Zugan to hash out a process where we would do sharing with Orange, in particular, like on Upper Jackson or Emory or Meadow Hill, those areas that are much closer to Orange Fire. And that's still in place. I confirmed that. So it's not that Chagrin would not respond, but they would ask Orange also to respond. So whoever gets there first would lead whatever it was, if it were something that was indicated that this was a life-threatening or a very time-sensitive emergency. So when I'm ready, I want to share that with the village as well. So I know we'll have more stuff to talk about with the survey as we get into committees, but I wanted to share that. So that's all I have this evening, unless you guys have questions for me. Okay, I'm going to move on then to the police report. Chief, do you have a
Very brief. We have a second candidate, about 95% done with their background. I received information back for the psychological exam, and he's going for the next week for his physical. And then we have the third candidate that's about 50% through. So I could see in about the next 2.5, 3 weeks, you and I coordinate for those interviews that we should have all three candidates up and ready for decisions to be made.
Outstanding. Thanks for your work on that, Chief. I appreciate that. That's great. That's a service report. Mr. Dwyer, do you have a report this evening?
Just to let everybody know, we are taking the Historical Society event date and working backwards from that to get some projects done. We're working on that brick sidewalk, the new layout, and our guys met with the Historical Society yesterday to maybe relocate the Garfield statue and a couple other things. They'll actually help with maintenance issues and get them worked together. We are aware that the village mechanic, Jason Borders, did resign from his position from the village. His last day was today. We do have want ads out there, and Ron and I attended the service directors meeting today, and one of the local communities just hired a mechanic. He's going to forward us all his applications for other people even. So we're trying to beat the ground a little bit so we can get this cleared up quickly.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Appreciate the report. Next is the engineer report. I see Mr. Pilarski is online. Jeff, do you have a report this evening?
Yes, I do. Hello, everybody. Couple of things. The Garfield birth site stairs are being advertised for bids tomorrow, starting tomorrow. And I spoke to Council President and the Mayor last week about having the bid award for that at the Council of the Whole meeting. Reason for that is going to save as much time as we can to get that thing awarded, so we can get it completed by the festivities up there on June 2nd. So I'd ask that we have bid results, and hopefully we'll have a good awardable bid for the next for the Council of the Whole meeting, or actually or special council meeting, however that's handled legally. So secondly, we are submitting to the Cuyahoga County Department of Public Works they have a biannual 50/50 resurfacing program application cycle, where we've done Chagrin Boulevard and Jackson Road West through this program, where they pay 50% of the construction cost up to $250,000. So this cycle, we're applying for Jackson Road East from Som down to River Road, and then also the section of Miles Road that is either all in Moreland Hills or split with Bentleyville. So basically from just before you start going down the hill, heading east, all the way to the, it's around Winding River Trail there where it breaks off. So we're submitting those two applications. Hopefully we'll be successful in at least one of them. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Flarsky, very much appreciated. The next is a finance report. I don't see Mr. Shaw online. He has been on vacation, as everyone knows, and I believe he'll be returning tomorrow, so he may be actually in flight at the moment. So it doesn't look like we're gonna have one from him. What I can tell you is, just in being in the office and talking with Marcia, this past month, we seem to have seen some improvement in the revenues from income taxes, which is good. I know if you guys remember, we were a little behind last year, behind the prior year, and we ended a little lower. But 1 month does not make a trend, but it's always good to see things going in the positive direction. So hopefully Mr. Prashant will be able to provide more detail on that next time. The next up would be the building department. Mr. Clausick, do you have a report?
I do not have any report at this time.
Okay, well, thank you. And then last but not least, our law report. Mr. Hannah, do you have a report?
You might be least, Mayor. I have no report as
No report, okay. Well, it's always good when you don't have a law report. Okay, thank you, everybody, for those reports. Appointments and confirmations this evening, unless I missed something, we have none. So I'll move on and go to reports of committees. Before I hand it over to the chairs of the different committees, I'd like to just make a note about, I was, perusing our ordinances just recently, and, I often do in my spare time. And I had noticed I had come across ordinance 12101F. And what that ordinance states is that reports of committees shall be brief. And it also states that the primary record of the committee's reports is the written report. And that's what's submitted through our minutes, and that our council should refer to in terms of the detail of what the committees are working on and what they're recommending. Now, there's an exception this evening with the diversity and inclusion, because they're going to be talking about an annual report. It's a different thing, and I'd like to allot them more time to do that. But our regular committees, I would ask that we not go through everything that was discussed in that report or in that meeting, that we refer to minutes. If there's a particular highlight that needs to be drawn to the council's attention, that they do that. And I know, given it's Valentine's Day, some of you may have desires to leave a little early today if possible. So, thank you. So I'm going to start with the BZA planning report. That meeting was held on February 5th. Mr. Richmond?
Excuse me, thank you, Mayor. So BZA and Planning Commission both met February 5th. 3 items BZA and 4 items on planning regarding BZA. 2 of those items, 170 Glen Road and 155 Sternkrest Road, were continued because the parties did not have enough information for the planning commission to decide whether there were other alternate avenues to take other than the variance. The one variance that was granted was at 45 Meadow Hill Road. Variance from our ordinance front-facing garages enacted in 2017, and that was approved for a 3rd garage versus all 3 garages. Planning commission, there were 2 renovations / additions that were approved at 751 Trail, 34800 Miles. Also at 70 Twin Acre Court, there was pool house pavilion and pickleball court that were approved. These were approved in accordance with recommendations from the village architect. And it's also worth noting that the pickleball court was 162 feet away from the closest house. And thought that would provide, plus that and the wooded lot would provide good, a good noise screening. And that was the basics of BZA planning meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Richmond. I'll move on to the facilities report now. Mrs. Irish Glass is the chair of that committee. She was not in attendance this evening, so I was going to ask Mr. Yonke if he could provide a brief update.
Sure. Outside, I'll let the minutes say for themselves. The only one thing, their village engineer touched on, he did present also the plans for the steps. I'm sure we'll see them at the committee. It's going to be really nice. Cool. That's all I had, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Council President. On the roads and safety, our chair, they met on February 6th. Our chair, Mr. Vincent, would you provide a report for us, sir?
Sure, as President Yonke said, I'll the minutes stand where they are. I'll just highlight two things. One is that the chief reported that they'll be spending some time and showing themselves at the Bentleyville and Chagrin River area while the Chagrin Falls Road projects start, which are starting soon, and to forward any complaints and calls that you may get to him and his team. And that's a 2-year project, and so we're in for a little bit of all. We'll get their traffic rearranged and get the drill. The other thing I wanted to just mention briefly was the fact that Mr. DeWater already mentioned that the mechanic is leaving the village. Get somebody there, but then the village engineer provided a asphalt replacement program, and I encourage you to look at the attachments to the minutes if you're interested in which roads are getting replaced or resurfaced or whatnot. It's very interesting. It's very easy map to look at with colors.
Thank you, Mr. Vincent. Appreciate it. Next is the Parks Commission. There was a meeting held on January 6th. Mr. Yonke, do you have a summary of that meeting?
I was not at that meeting. One of the minutes as soon as they received.
Okay. I'm just trying to remember. I was at that meeting, so what I will say is the chair, Angela Wyatt, was reappointed as the chair for the next year. And I told you, what type of events that they want to put on in 2024. So again, I think we can refer some minutes for details of that, but just to let you know, Angela will be leading that commission for another year. Okay, the Green Commission did meet on January 17th. And my apologies, Mr. Richmond, I didn't talk to you ahead of time. I was at that meeting as well. I could give an update but if you would like to do that, you may also do that.
Whichever you prefer. I did talk with the outgoing chair and did get their notes because their minutes are not out as yet. So I'm happy to give a minute summary, but if you prefer that, that's okay.
No, if you're ready, go right ahead.
All right, sure, thank you. So basically, half a dozen quick things. Notably, Shane Sharp was elected as new chair for 2024. And youth representative Safi Melli was elected as vice chair / secretary of the commission. We've talked about the mayor had some updates regarding our efforts of the mayor and council president for become a tree city and a possible event for Earth Day or Arbor Day. We also talked about and appreciate the First Energy graciously donating tree saplings for our Green Commission. And we also talked about recycling, and they'll be attached to the upcoming minutes summary. Basically, unfortunately, recycling is dipped a bit. We do have our new contract coming in or I'm sorry, in October, I believe, and Mr. DeWater mentioned, we might see some changes. There were some talks about maybe since plastic is so difficult to figure out, changes all the time versus glass and metal, that we should take that off of the list, so to speak, but Mr. DeWater reminded us that we do need to follow the county, and it makes sense to keep on trying. And finally, we talked about doing some additional composting seminars and other events, and not using paper handouts at the Green Commission because it's Green Commission. That's important.
Thank you, Mr. Richmond. I appreciate it. Now our last report is from the Diversity and Inclusion Commission. This is an annual report, and I believe we have a presentation, Laura.
Thank you. My name is Lori Rodney Eiler. Most of you, I'm past chair of the Diversity and Inclusion Center, and also this year's calendar year chair as well. I want to first recognize other members of the commission that are here with us today, because we are truly a collaborative working group, and we do things by consensus. We have our secretary, former secretary of last year, Francesca Turner, who, with all her, she has the hardest job, obviously, all her due diligence for all the minutes, as well as the report that you have in front of you with all the attachments. Mary Bredinger, who is on the commission, our newest member of the commission, Liz Denero, and finally, Christabel Devadas, who we're really excited is here because she's due shortly and dedicated. We have a number of commissioners who couldn't be here because they are either recovering from a serious illness or in a current state of illness. And two of them are also have been selected as vice chair. Todd Steele, who's done an excellent job, has also been reselected as vice chair for this calendar year. And Tim Collier will be our secretary. Because Francetta has, as much as we beg her, has many, many other commitments. And Tim has stepped up to the plate for us, which is very exciting. I also want to thank you all for including a student leader, because we have had the pleasure of having Joy with us, as well as Sappy, and both of them have been instrumental in our work. And I can't thank you enough of having the foresight to put that into our commission. We're brand new, right? And this is our first annual report. We submitted it on December 31st. And before I get into the details of the report, and the report speaks for itself, along with all its attachments, but I did talk to Bill ahead of time. He told me about 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, and I have some questions that have been submitted to us, which we'll answer directly to in a second. But first, I want to say, as a 31-year resident of this community who moved here for the schools, I want to thank you for creating this commission, because I feel for the first time that there's a intentional effort beyond just regular business to really bring about community and belonging and inclusiveness. And we've had a wonderful year as a commission and doing events. I also want to express gratitude to the people before you, as well as the people who are here on our team, because they have worked really hard in not only creating the recommendations we have and our discussions, but also in facilitating all of the events we've had. We only have the duty to meet once a quarter, and for the first 4 months of our birth, so to speak, we met twice a month, and then have continued to meet on the third Tuesday of every month, which you are all welcome to attend at any time, and we have had people attend with us. It's kind of fitting we're here on Valentine's Day, because I'm going to give you a little analogy before we get into it. And basically, our DEIB work, right, is feeling, right? How do people feel? Are you included? Do you belong? And often people, you might think of it as also the heart of the community. And you might think of our commission as your cardiologist, so to speak. So you've asked us to give a health report on sort of at the heartbeat of the community. And just as the ordinance says, it gives us basically 4 duties, like any cardiologist, right? We have to evaluate that section A of the ordinance. We have to engage with the community to assess things, that's section B of the ordinance. We have to educate on what is good cardiac health, so to speak. That's section D, actually. I did add order. And C is to advise. And most of the recommendations in our annual report are advice for our cardiac health, so to speak. Okay, that come from the evaluations that we were able to do in the past year. Now, we may not have all that we want or need, but these are our first recommendations. And so in discussing our first checkup, so to speak, you'll see from the report that we're pretty healthy, right? We're pretty healthy. But some of the recommendations are to bring us to make us a little healthier than we can be. And our charge is a serious charge and a brave charge. And I am honored to be in this community that has a charge such as this. And that is to celebrate diversity, study system bias and discrimination, educate residents, provide advice and recommendations to council on understanding and seeking to eliminate the impacts of racism and advancing equity, inclusion, fairness, and social justice with the village without regard to race, color, age, disability, education, marital status, sex, gender identity or expression, national origin, ethnicity, sexual orientation, military service, or the status as a veteran. That's a heavy charge for our cardiac health, so to speak. And we made several recommendations relating directly to this. The first couple months, January and February, and I have to thank Sherry and the chief, as well as members of councils, we sought information. We're supposed to evaluate policies and practices. So we sought the handbook for the village. We asked about the use of force. All this is also in our report. But one of the things that, and on the face, everything was you know, the policies and practices, which was excellent. But there were tracking instruments that tracked certain kinds of complaints. And there also were ways for one of our recommendations was to make sure that when we market for a job opening, such as there's one for the service department, we learned that, for instance, in the police department had a broader breadth, but in the building department, because we were asked a direct question about this from council, so that's why I'm giving details. One of the recommendations we said was to perhaps advertise more broadly and where people of color might seek to look. And the reason we wrote this was because we had learned in February that the building department, although they had only hired one person in the last 5 years, they advertised through Chagrin Valley Times and building organizations such as BOCO and EO. And the service department had advertised on Facebook, the Ohio Municipal League site, and the Chagrin Valley Times. So we noted that, and we thought that the Chagrin Valley Times may have a limited regional and demographic reach, and Facebook posts on the village may or may not be seen by a lot of people. It had a limited audience, as our student representative constantly tells us that no one looks to Facebook. So our recommendation was to be broader. I'm giving you these details because perhaps it wasn't clear. So perhaps advertising to more diverse organizations such as veterans, which is one of the identities that we protect, because as we learned during Veterans Day, at least I did, and I heard it's in other places, right? The Armed Forces is one of our most diverse entities in the country. Or to also advertise to other newspapers, such as the Akron Beacon Journal, Call Post, Plain Dealer, local colleges such as Tri-C, Cleveland State, or maybe all the Ohio colleges, including there's 2 HBCUs, so that because young people who may have gone to college other places, they might be coming home to look for work locally. So those are the details that were related to question 8 that we were, or recommendation 8, I'm sorry, that we were asked about. We spent, we also made recommendations regarding, in the first 2 months, at the February meeting, I believe, about signage on restrooms. Some are gender neutral, such as in the police department, I believe, but then other places they're not. And since they're all single use, a simple signage change could be made, but we hadn't had a response about that since, and it's been almost a year. We cared about, right, getting a pulse on the community and honoring the voices of our community. And in order to study the impacts of racism and other discriminatory actions and beliefs, including implicit bias in Moreland Hill, and formulate recommendations and address those impacts, and to increase engagement and inclusion, we decided that we would create and distribute a survey to hear all voices of the community through the lens of diversity and inclusion, and to also collect demographic information, because we are charged with protecting many identities across the community in the ordinance. And while I'm on that topic, religion is one of our recommendations, because that is a one identity that is not listed in the ordinance. That is one of the fundamental protected rights under the Civil Rights Act of 64. So that was also one of our recommendations back at the beginning of last year. So we decided to create a survey, and we're still recommending that we need a tool. We know that the mayor's done a survey. We know that some of our questions and some modified questions have been included, but just like you go to the cardiologist, right, and get an EKG that just focuses on the heart, right, or a sonogram that goes a little deeper, that's what we need. And there's all kinds of ways you can do it. We try to do it the most cost-effective way. So we have expertise on our commission. I'll give a shout out to Christabel in particular, because this is her professional work, and other people on the commission. And we decided to try and create a survey ourselves with the demographic information. We could hire a professional, but that's kind of pricey, but we need a tool. We cannot do our fiduciary duties without some kind of tool to hear the voices of the community and to be able to, on a regular basis, just like you get a regular checkup, so that we can assess and hopefully give reports that everything is healthy and A-okay. But if there's something that's off, then at least we can know exactly how to specifically address it. So the specific question that we were asked is what kind of tool we'd like to give our survey that we created. But if we can't get that, we need something that is professionally sound for addressing that concern. Our second duty is to engage residents and businesses, and we had opportunities to do that through the events that were there, that were taking place in July. We also had a We Are Moreland Hills event, which a number of you attended, which was successful. Shout out to the chief and his team for being in the tournament and almost winning. And no, it was beautiful.
They stacked the deck. They had outsiders. They stacked the deck.
And we want to continue that. We want to have a way annually. That was the second Saturday in September. We, as a commission, decided to again wanting to do that this September, hopefully, so it's a regular annual event to bring the community together. We also had an event where we educated people, where it was how to think more inclusively, which again, I want to thank the chief and the mayor and, councilpersons, I think Steve was there, and I remember Jeanette was there for, attending, and we had a number of, residents there, as well as people outside the community, including the principal from Moreland Hills Elementary School. We want to do more, right? We want to do more. And in order to do more, we need a way to, fund things, right? We had a budget for last year, but we need funding. We've been resourceful. Betsy got us donations from doing fabrics for crafts. All of us raided our homes and friends' homes for things to bring, to various events. But we would like to have more dessert and dialogues, more lunch and learns of, educational pieces. They don't have to be necessarily called that. We want to do a We Are Moreland Hills. And the most exciting thing that we have, that we are planning, although there's a caveat, which I'll discuss in a second, and our next meeting is where we will decide our entire, plan as a whole commission. But one of the things that we started last year that's in the report is a collaboration with the Orange Art Center, which we're very excited about. We met with Destiny, twice. We've talked to her, and, our vision is to have an event where we will bring the community together along, lines that are aligned with our mission, right? Like such as everyone has a story, and have an art event and perhaps some workshops before that. And so that we can do this, hopefully, we had originally said in the report in spring, but it'll probably now be, due to the the Orange Arts Center's schedule, it'll probably work closer to the summer and fall. We were asked directly about, one of our recommendations was to have us to be able to welcome people. One of the strongest things about, diversity, inclusion, and equity work is the sense of belonging, as we heard at one of our events. And many people come in and out of Moreland Hills. And I know that I didn't meet a lot of my neighbors until I retired, except through the Orange community where my students went to school. And so from the beginning, we know that the police department, gives surveys. We know that Sherry does work in sending out, researching who moves in. But we like to institutionalize a way that perhaps our commission can welcome members, new people. It doesn't have to be elaborate. We could give a little Moreland Hills swag of a coffee mug or something. It would give information about all of you, city council, the different commissions, the pavilion, which is new and beautiful that people might not know. We don't want people to say, oh, like a couple of years later, I wish I had known, or I wish I had known about this and that event. And that brings us to another recommendation, and that is communication. We would love to be able to communicate with residents through either, the website, perhaps having a, email. All of you have, emails. We know we learned from Bill, in one of our first meetings about public records and the importance of keeping those separate from personal. So we know that, a way to communicate with the community on a regular basis would be, besides just our events, would be nice. And also to be able to, so we don't have to host everything, right? To be able to bring to people's attention, hey, this month, Black History Month, there's these great events going on in the greater community. And that way people would know us as a source for, finding engagements. And then I might say, hey, Francetta, who's one of my neighbors, would you want to go check this out with me? And, because I saw it on the Moreland Hills site, as opposed to just people doing their own thing. One of the most important things for helping us, and this was a question asked, we recommended having an amendment to the ordinance because process is kind of a clog in the work for us. So we're just advisory, right? You're just you know, you're a cardiologist, right? We need to know, or have a way to know, how can we expedite the process of getting approval of anything that we want to do. So we don't have to have long lag times, and also so that we know that when we're working on something, that this has the go-ahead from council, and we can put it in place and move forward and do the things that we need to do as a group. Steve, I believe, asked what a policy, work as opposed to an amendment. That's more a law question. I would just like a way, a guarantee that we know the process and that it's quick and it's, true to the law. So it says council has to approve what we do. It says that, it doesn't say, I should say what it doesn't say. It doesn't say how long approval will take. It doesn't say, first steps. It doesn't say how long you have to consider our recommendations before there's action or even a response. Those kinds of things aren't in there, and those are important to us being able to do our work. And finally, our last fiduciary duty is to advise. And I know we were asked to pick 3 or 4 priorities or 1 or 2 things that you'd like us to get done. But when it comes to EEIB, or diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, and our 4-prong, sort of like a table, right? Our 4-prong charge of evaluating all the things we have to do, right? And engaging with people and educating and advising, it really can't be boiled down to 1 or 2 things. At our February meeting, we do intend to create a strategic plan, but our strategic plan is going to meet all the fiduciary duties that we swore to do. And some of those, you created them, right? Are heavier and require more lifting than others. We will have priorities. There's been a suggestion also to make a longer strategic plan, so into the, not just 2024, but into the next year, and also to have a calendar, like we know when Black History Month is, right? We know when Pride Month is, so that we have a calendar of those kinds of things. But also, we would like to put in processes to make all our elements for our annual report as required, not have to be jammed into a tiny space, or to take up a lot of energy when we could be doing other things.
Lori, is there any last points? Because I think we need to move on to legislation.
Yeah, I'm right here. So, and this is our annual report, and I appreciate your ear, and I apologize if I'm rambling. I think showing up and being fully present, we were asked, what can you do for us, right? Several council people want to know, well, what can you do? And showing up, being fully present, being authentically engaged, taking our recommendations, all of them, because they were all seriously done, and giving a response to them, funding the work that needs to be done. And what I do love is, in this community as opposed to others, individual politics has been kept out of DEIB, and ensuring that everybody is valued and treated fairly. And village health in this way is not political. And good health, though, includes, right, self-monitoring and choices to sustain good health. And you don't arrive, right? You don't arrive at DEIB, right? Like, it's an ongoing process. And so whatever you can do to empower us to do the work fully is what we appreciate. I don't know if you have other questions. I think I answered all the questions that were given to me. Or if you have any questions for other commissioners or comments.
Well, I'll just say I deeply appreciate the work that you all have done, and and the suggestions. Glad to hear that it's working out with the Student Civic Leadership Program. We had a lot of discussion about that as we're forming the committee, and thanks to Steve Richmond for kind of leading the charge on the commission to begin with, and then working with me and others on how we engage students in that, or young people in that commission and others. So thank you. I mean, like a lot of your suggestions, I think are just absolutely fantastic. I don't want to get into them here right now just because of the time, but I'll just say I particularly like, I mean, I like all of them. I don't want to single one out, but I'm going to single one. It's just that the idea of welcoming the new residents is it's a really good idea. It's a really good idea. So spark some thoughts.
Yeah, just real quickly, just want to reiterate, I think we all feel the same way, your dedication, your work, your compassion, and wanting to make this a reality and continue to make reality what you've done already is unsurpassed and appreciated. And I look forward to working with the mayor and council and helping you go further as you would like to go.
Thank you. And I want to give you all a shout out because you've been copied. So Brooklyn, the city of Brooklyn, at the end of the calendar year, reached out because they had used the ordinance that you created to create their own. They tweaked it in ways that, my personal opinion, we didn't discuss it as commissioner, were really wrong. But they also included the student leadership piece.
Really?
Yes. And as they asked for just input. But driving home after attending that council meeting, I thought to myself, I'm so glad I live in Moreland Hills as opposed to where I had just been, because the discussion was not about, the discussion had a lot of politics, let's just put it in there. And a lot of things that were thrown into the law had nothing to do with necessarily DEIT work, but were just power pieces for different things. That's my own little personal opinion, but you were copied well, but you were copied. And I don't know where they are with theirs. Are there any other questions that you have for us that we can give insight to? I know it's an annual report. I would like to request this, as I see everybody else can give commission reports on a regular basis. I would like the opportunity for us also to give reports on a regular basis besides our agenda and our minutes, although it might be just the minutes as you get them, because then it won't be. The last time I spoke to council formally was a year ago. It was in February. And our report was submitted in December, and now we're here in February. And I understand how those dynamics are, but I think equity, right? Everybody else gets to report on a regular basis. We should.
Thank you very much. And I guess without repeating, thank all of you guys for the effort that you put in, and those folks who couldn't be here as well. I have discussed with our council president and with Lori that the council is invited to the next meeting of the D&I Commission, which is the third Tuesday.
It's this Tuesday.
This Tuesday coming up. So if anyone can make that and would like to come for. Okay. I know you've got an agenda and other things
Yeah, we have
you
to do
need
our
to
strategic
accomplish.
plan, that's
So,
correct.
we won't turn them out, but again, I just want to make sure that everyone knows that. And then the second thing is, in talking with our council president, we will be discussing some of those recommendations at our committee, the whole meetings and responding. So we will do that. So thank you. Thank you for the recommendations. And I too, as I read the report, I think there's a lot of good recommendations in there too. So thanks. All right. Approvals of bonds, contracts, and plats. We actually do kind of have a contract, but I'm gonna hold it till miscellaneous. And I'm gonna ask our law director to help me with that. I did send that out to you, but I think I'm gonna hold it for that section. So I would like to go to ordinances, and we have 3 this evening, so usually actually less than normal. So the first ordinance is 2024-06. It's an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter an agreement with Weichert Insurance Services for the provision of general law enforcement, public official, automobile property, employment practices, and cyber liability insurance. And this was discussed also at committee of the whole and presented by our law director, I mean, not our law director, our finance director, as well as our broker. So, so you should be very familiar with this. The details were in your packet, and that is going to be presented by Mr. Emmerman.
Yes. All right, thank you, Mayor. So, you might see us approve this, or not, right, but, fairly fast. Maybe not a lot of discussion, but it was discussed very in depth at our committee of the whole meeting. We had our broker, our finance director, and spent a good amount of time going back and forth on the details of this insurance policy. Council, I'm sure you looked at it. One of the key points that we talked about was the deductible for the law enforcement side of it. So just put on the record for these minutes as well. They went in the contract with $25,000 deductible, which I think gave us the most benefit, given the fact that we haven't had to use that claim. And also, just I'll put on the record, a lot of things that we talked about at that committee of the whole meeting had to do with insurance as a whole going up, and nothing in particular for our law enforcement or anything related to our village specifically, but more just the insurance market as a whole. So with that, I'll make a motion to suspend the rules.
So moved. For a second.
Okay, we have a motion to suspend the rules. Mr. Emmerman,
Wrong order.
seconded by Mr. Yonke.
Wait.
Mr. Emmerman,
Yes.
Mr. Fish,
Yes.
Mr. Yaki,
Yes.
Mr. Richmond,
Yes.
Mr. Vincent.
Yes. Move to approve. Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve that ordinance by Mr. Emmerman, seconded by Mr. Richmond. Please call roll.
Mr. Emmerman,
Yes.
Mr. Fish.
Yes.
Mr. Yaki,
Yes.
Mr. Richmond,
Yes.
Mr. Vincent.
Okay, thank you, council. The next ordinance is 2024-07. An ordinance authorizing all actions necessary to accept the Northeast Ohio Public Energy Council, that's NOPEC, 2024 Energized Community Grant and declaring an emergency. And this will be presented by Mr. Vincent.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Yes, this is something we also discussed briefly at the committee of the whole. Basically, it's a grant program that we apply to for NOPEC and we get, I think, it wasn't in there, but I believe it's $10,000. And it's a new year. You get 2 years to use the money. We actually have money left over from the last time we got this. And one question that came up at committee of the whole was whether or not we could apply those funds to our Moreland solar project. I reached out to NOPEC after several phone calls and eventually reaching through their website. I did get somebody and I have a contact as well. And she was very quick to respond. Yes, we can use it for the solar power and pretty much anything else related to energy saving. So I have the policy. I just got it I think yesterday afternoon. So I'll forward it to Sherry so she can share it with council. But it's mentioned in the ordinance. I just wanted to make sure folks knew what that policy looked like. But I was happy to hear that. Obviously, we have that decision in front of us. But yeah, so it's basically accepting money from NOPEC, which I think I would highly recommend we all do. So I'll make a motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to suspend the rules by Mr. Vincent, seconded by Mr. Emmerman. Please call roll.
Mr. Emmerman,
Yes.
Mr. Fish.
Yes.
Mr. Yaki,
Yes.
Mr. Richmond,
Yes.
Mr. Vincent.
And a motion to pass.
Yeah, we have a motion to pass by Mr. Vincent, seconded by Mr. Fish. Sure.
Mr. Emmerman,
Yes.
Mr. Fish.
Yes.
Mr. Yaki,
Yes.
Mr. Richmond,
Yes.
Mr. Vincent.
Yes.
Okay, and our third and final ordinance for this evening is 2024-08. And this is an ordinance providing additional appropriations, transferring items already appropriated, and declaring an emergency. And this will be presented by Council President Yonke.
Thank you, Mayor. This is our transfers we see quite frequently. You'll notice on the exhibit, 2 of the 3, the general bond retirement and police and fire levy, we see pretty regularly, just moving money from the general fund to the appropriate accounts. The third is there's a water maintenance and repair item. And that is our annual bill for our village's 542 hydrants, which was not included in the temporary budget. That is why the additional dollars were transferred into the to pay for that. And with that, I will make a motion to suspend the rules.
Motion suspended rules by Councilperson Smith, seconded by Mr. Vincent.
Mr. Everman,
Yes.
Mr. Fish.
Yes.
Mr. Yaki,
Yes,
Mr. Richmond.
Yeah.
Vincent.
Yes.
and I will move for approval.
Second. We have a motion to approve by Mr. Yaki, seconded by Mr. Fish. Sure.
Mr. Everman,
Yes.
Mr. Fish.
Yes.
Mr. Yaki,
Yes.
Mr. Richmond,
Yes.
Mr. Vincent.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, council. That concludes ordinances. I'm gonna move on to miscellaneous, and I'm gonna have one before I ask council if they have any. I had sent you this past week an email that I got from Chagrin Valley Fire. And if you had a chance to look at that, we have an escrow agent that was appointed through that contract, and he passed away earlier this year or last year and needed to be replaced. So Chagrin Fire has gone out and recruited somebody and found them. What it requires is that all members of this organization, which are all the communities that are served by Chagrin Fire, approve and ratify the contract because there's a change to the escrow agent. And just to give you a little more detail, since Mr. Hanna is far more expert on the details of this contract, I was going to ask him to give a little summary as to why do we have this escrow agent and these different agreements, if you wouldn't mind, Mr. Hanna.
Sure, Mayor, thank you. And I think you sort of did a good job of covering it generally, and it has to do with an agreement that I think most of council was here for in 2022, where the communities that participate in the Chagrin Valley Fire, the Joint Fire Department, which is Chagrin Falls Township, Hunting Valley, South Russell, Moreland Hills, and Bentleyville, all agreed to, with legislation, to sign an agreement that would memorialize and provide for the collection and expenditure of just about $300,000 from those communities. And the share that each community contributed, which was to be done in July of 2022, was based upon the average calls from 2018, 19, and 20. And for Moreland Hills, that came to about $47,000. The largest was Chagrin Falls, and I think that was about $151,000. And those monies were being contributed into a pot that already included about $800,000 that had been fundraised, and there were additional grants and contributions being sought to support the redevelopment and renovation and updating of the fire department fire station itself. So in order to handle the money, which was really the point of trying to get everyone to cooperate together, there was an escrow agent provided for in the agreement who would keep track of all of the receipts and who would keep track of all the applications for disbursements, make sure that they were approved through the agreement by the fire department, and then pay out those monies. And in the event that the escrow agent were to become incapable of carrying out that job or resign or die, there's a provision that says that a successor escrow agent is to be appointed by obtaining, as the mayor said, the approval of a majority of the parties, whose legislative body shall approve the appointment by motion. And so the fire department reached out recently and said that by March 1st, they would ask, in light of the passing away of Don Brown, to appoint Steve Crandall, who they selected and are seeking to appoint as the successor escrow agent to see through the rest of this project. And so what council would be entertaining, if you choose to do so, is a motion to approve the appointment of Steve Crandall as a successor escrow agent under the community funding and escrow agreement for the modernization of the Chagrin Valley Fire Department Station.
Thank you very much, Mr. Han. Are there any questions? Yes, Mr. Herman.
Do we know anything about the escrow agent?
I don't personally know him. I know that there's a process that they went through to choose that agent. And that's what they're recommending to us. So I do not question them on that. I don't personally know him.
That was gonna be my question too. And the process, do we know anything about that? Like, is it, who, like, or when you said they, who is they that comes up with the person's name? Like, you know, is it a nominating committee or something like that? Or is it the fire department or something that's doing that? Like, how does that?
I don't know how they did it. I believe that it was sort of an administrative decision emanating from leadership in the fire department.
Leadership part, yeah. So it's somebody they.
Looking for somebody capable of discharging those duties, and again, the purpose being to make sure that the money is being spent.
Sure.
Can I presume that they're bonded and or insured in some way in order to? Yeah, I think that's required under the agreement.
So if council so is willing to make a motion, I would like to ask you if someone would be willing to make a motion to authorize the appointment of Steve Crandall as escrow agent per Article 5, Section 5.1 of the community escrow agreement between the member communities and the Chagrin Valley Fire Department.
I'd be happy to, it's not really much to say.
You could just say so moved.
So moved. Say so moved.
And we have a motion by Mr. Fish and a second by Mr. Armerman. Would you call the roll, Sherry?
Mr. Emmerman,
Yes.
Mr. Fish,
Yes.
Mr. Yaki,
Yes.
Mr. Richmond,
Yes.
Mr. Vincent.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else on council have any miscellaneous business that they would like to discuss this evening?
30-second one there. If I know every other or the first and second Wednesday our council meetings, I know that Monday is planning meeting. Once in a while, I'll lose sight of the fact of DNI or Parks Commission or others. I'm kind of wondering if it's not too much work if we can just get a copy of the agendas before the other meetings as well as the folks on those commissions. This is kind of an extra reminder as well as a heads up on what they're talking about.
I don't see that as an issue. Sherry, you do
Remember, yeah.
distribute those. I can try to work with you to
Try to
do that,
remember.
Mr. Richmond, because they are sent out to all the commission and the committee members. So we could add all the council, I suppose, but I don't think that's concerned. Okay, yes. Any other miscellaneous business? Okay, any resident who wishes to raise any miscellaneous business this evening? No? Okay, then do I have, I'd like to ask for a motion to adjourn this evening.
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Council President Duncan, second by Mr. Fish to adjourn. Would you please call the roll?
Mr. Emmerman,
Yes.
Mr. Fish,
Yes.
Mr. Yaki,
Yes.
Mr. Richmond.
Yeah.
Mr. Vincent.
Thank you, everyone. Happy Valentine's Day.
No.
Yeah.